So, yesterday, Freeman's up in Philadelphia had their sale on the 13th of April, and we're going to go through and see how it did, because the results were, I think, were quite excellent. There were some incredibly strong buys, there were some absolute bargains, I think, and some lots that went unsold that might be available. And we're going to go through them because there are some opportunities here, and you can get a sense of what's going on in the market right now, because New York, we saw a couple of weeks ago, had very good results, and now we're seeing very good results again at Freeman's, despite everything going on in the world. Ben and the group over there should be really pleased how it went. This was the page, how it looked on Live Auctioneers. The well illustrated, good descriptions and so forth, modest estimates, and let's take a wander through some prices here. And some of them we talked about the preview video we did a few weeks ago about what was coming up, what we thought might happen. There were some surprises. These we talked about. It's basically a pair of Wukai decorated transitional jars. They were estimated very modestly at 6,000 to 8,000. And as always, I suggested getting a condition report, but they did pretty well, pretty much what we thought. We thought the estimate was sort of about what one of them is worth, so they expected to do about double, and it did. Ended up selling for 14,000 plus the buyer's premium. The buyer's premium not included here, and the premium is around 25-28%, something like that. What is the buyer's premium? Does it even say? There it is, 31%. There you go. And then 26% after 600,000. So there was a premium on there. So these are the end price of these ended up at about $17,500. All right, and then on to these, the pair of Kengshi period jars with the vine and flower decoration. These were very attractive. I thought they were quite nice. They were 17th century examples, beautifully done, and they ended up selling for $9,500. And these were the ones I thought were sort of interesting because they were a pair visually, but when you flip them over, one of them had a very defined foot rim, and the other one had a flat bottom, and yet both of them were visually a pair. And that can happen with these wares because they were made in workshops, and there were variances in how they were finished. And here you have a case where probably was a fairly good sized workshop that was producing porcelain, and this is what they were making that day. And some of the potters applied foot rims, and some of them didn't. So they end up with the same decorators, just a slightly different look underneath. And then on to this. This was one of the big surprises of the day. It was a curious thing. I remember looking at it and thinking it quite possibly could be mark and period, but it's highly unusual. Butterfly vase in this bottle form, nice white glaze, very softly decorated all the way around. And the bottom of it was this piece was a mess. It had been busted badly. Here it is, old repairs everywhere, all these staple repairs in here, but with a Yongshen mark, nice looking foot rim. And I guess the consensus was from everybody that examined it that it was mark and period. And it was unusual for a number of reasons. One, the decoration is very unusual, the shape is unusual, but also the way the mark was applied. It wasn't put within circles. It was just a 4-character mark and so forth, which is a bit unusual on period porcelains, but it did happen, obviously. And here's a vase that just absolutely took off. It had a $5,000 to $7,000 estimate, ended up selling for $150,000. And I suspect the estimate was modest because they had nothing to compare it to. I think if you go out and look around on the web and you look at the other big auction houses and what they've done and had, I don't think you're going to find this form in there. there's a pretty good write up on it, and it says there's no other examples of these proportions and decorations located to date. So it was very, very rare. So they picked an estimate that would get it sold absolutely, and an interesting piece of porcelain. It measured about 15 inches tall, and as I said, it had a really unusual decoration. It was reminiscent of it was sort of like almost like this was a forebearer of the famous Guangzhou butterfly vases that came later but were decorated with by far more butterflies. This one only has a handful of them, and with flowers. And the Guangzhou examples are just covered with flocks of butterflies. But this may have been the impetus for it. At any rate, there you are, $150,000 plus the premium. So you're upwards of 195,000 by the time it's done. You're right up there. And imagine what this would have brought if it hadn't been broken. Probably would have brought $1.5 million. And then over to this, the little celadon glazed Kengshi period incense burner. I thought it was awfully pretty when we talked about it before. I love this soft green. The cobalt decoration was beautifully done. Slight relief work to the decoration on the body, but just absolutely beautiful cobalt enameling all through here. In slight, it looks like it's in slight relief off the body. But a beautiful example. Here's the bottom, and in the end, it did great. It made very short work of that estimate of 1,500 to 2,000. Ended up selling for 10,000. Again, plus the premium, so $13,000 to round it up. And it's interesting because in the past these have sold for 4,000 to 6,000. So this one in person may have just been that much better, and got people very, very excited because it was in wonderful condition, and condition is, of course, really crucial when it comes to these porcelains. And then over here to the pair of FumiNoir monk's cap viewers. These are for a long time these were thought to be Kengshi period. 30, 40 years ago when you came across these, everybody automatically assumed they were probably, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people automatically assumed they were Kengshi. And then research and things that they've learned about FumiNoir, as we've talked about before on here, very few of them were made during the Kengshi period, and nearly all of them were made in the 19th century and the late Qing dynasty, and that's what these are 19th century examples, but beautifully done, absolutely wonderfully done all the way down, and in the end they again went through the estimate, not a big surprise. Because individual examples of these, we've seen them sell for 4,000 to 6,000 in that range before. Here you got a pair, and they ended up bringing 11,000. And pairs are worth a premium, and these are pretty good size. These are 14 and a quarter inches tall. One is 14 and 3/4. One is 14 and a quarter. One of them is roughly just a half inch taller than the other, because they didn't really make these as pairs typically, but they made similars. And here it is. All right, the decorations are slightly different, but not significantly different. All right, and then over to this. One of my favorite things in the sale was this little carved bamboo Lujan with a food line. I thought this was terrific. The color was, the patina looked good. The carving was very, very, very detailed. Nice, smooth treatment of the robes here. They just sort of flow, almost like waterfalls. And you have this beautiful little feline curling up in his lap, and he's got these wide gazing eyes going out, and then the beard and whiskers and so forth. It's a very nice carving. Ended up selling for $2,600 plus the premium, so you're up around 3,000 or 3,200 or so, roughly. And but a nice thing. It was. I thought the estimate was very modest. I thought it was $1,500 to $2,000 seems very reasonable for such a nice little carving, and it had a good size. It was 5 1/4 inches tall. All right, and then over here to these, the big item of the day. These were the most expensive of things sold, and not a huge surprise. They were estimated at 80 to 120,000, but as we all know, the furniture market for top quality Ming furniture in particular has been really strong now for about 3 or 4 years. It was strong before that, but it's really come on strong in the last couple of years. And things like these high hat chairs, as they're referred to sometimes, officials' chairs, really took off. And these were extremely sleek versions of this form, beautifully done. They have these, extended arms curling out around, but very, very refined. These always almost look almost modern. Like Danish modern or something, but the proportions, the scale, the selection of woods, all of that. And one of the chairs, the seat even had a little bit of damage under it. It didn't seem to bother anybody too much up here, because this is a floating panel that's used to create the seat, and something apparently, obviously, happened here. The wood shrank and something hit it, and you had a little bit of a break, but smartly they didn't try to replace that bottom board. If you replace the bottom board in one of these, it severely impacts the value. If the wood is slightly damaged or little problems with it, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Don't have your cabinet guy rip it out and put a better one in here. You had some further splits and things, all indications of legitimate age and so forth. The leg ends, the bottoms of the feet look good. Lots of nice natural wear. A little bit of moisture may have gotten on them at one point. And there are the chairs. And they were estimated at 80 to 120,000. They just took off. And they went to 760 plus the premium. So when it was all said and done, they ended up selling for nearly, upwards of almost, 4 or 5 times our high estimate, coming in at around just a hair under $1 million. But beautiful, beautiful chairs. Really good, and beautiful color, which is crucial to these. And this, I think, was one of the really good buys of the day. It was this really fine Lujan carving in soapstone. Looks like jade, doesn't it? Of a figure. Very good details. Very, very nice work all the way down. Absolutely, totally refined. And somebody picked it up for $1,100 plus the premium. So it sold within the range. It sold within the estimate, coming in all done at around, what does that work out to, about $1,400 and change on the estimate, on the final price. But absolutely worth it. This was a super little carving, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Very finely done. And then on to this. This was a really nice chinlung dragon bowl, a phoenix and dragon bowl as they're typically called. And we had a few inquiries on this bowl, actually. And I said to everybody, I think the estimate is low. I think it'll go a good bit above that, because they've in the past brought 15 to 20,000 pretty steadily. And this this bowl was no disappointment. It brought 22,000 plus the premium again, so 26,000 by the time you're done. But it was a good bowl, and had a wonderful color. I thought that there may have been a little bit of damage or something down here on the foot rim, maybe some little bit of chipping, but it didn't seem to bother anybody. And that seems to be sort of a thing these days. Damage on certain pieces are having less impact than they would have had 10 or so years ago. And it may just be because there is a shortage of great things on the market, and there's a lot of demand, so people are going to pay a bit of a premium to get something that's good, and they'll be a little more accepting of condition, taking into account age, which is a good thing to see. All right, and then on to this very, very nice chinlung Marken period dragon bowl. This was a beautiful bowl. It was done in the Ming style, obviously, but wonderfully decorated, very crisp, very clean decoration. The potting was very nice, nicely shaped bowl with this very smooth, sort of a cyma curve coming down along the edge, outlining it and so forth, and beautiful piece all the way around. And had an old Marchant sticker on it, which looked completely legit. And it ended up doing fine. It ended up doubling its high estimate and then some, going for $22,000 plus the premium, so about $28,000 all in and done. But a very fine example and no damage. Absolutely wonderful condition based on the photographs. And I'm assuming it was in great condition because of the price too. People got condition reports, examined it, and everybody seemed, I guess, satisfied that the price was warranted. Now on to this. This, I think, was one of the good buys, really particularly good buys of the day. It was this really nice Phoenix dish, large one. I think it was 15. Well, how big was this? 15 and a half inches in diameter. Nicely done. Ended up selling for $1,200 plus the buyer's premium. But this was a heck of a nice Wanley plate. Unusual decoration, very crisp, very clean, and it sold for $1,200 plus the premium. So again, you're up around $1,500. I don't think that was at all a heavy price. This was a very nice example, and lately Wanley plates have been a pretty good buy on big ones, selling for a couple of $1,000s or less often, and I think they represent a heck of a value on the market, because on the better examples, there's a lot of Wanley plates floating around, but this was a particularly nice one. And then over here to this, the Aero Game vases that we talked about that have this mottled glaze on them. I thought they were very unusual, and they looked absolutely okay to me. Just had a very almost like a marbleized grain of glaze on them, but really attractive. Here's a picture of the underside of them, 19th century. And they were estimated at $3,000 to $5,000, and by the time they're done, these ended up with the premium end up around $9,000 roughly, right? 30% of that, $7,500, $8,400 for the pair, roughly. All right, nice looking, nice, handsome pair of vases. I don't know where he got them. It'll be interesting to find out if any more news comes of these, because this is a very unusual glaze, and these were big, as I recall. These were like 15 inches tall or something, 17 inches tall. These were very big vases. I think these were an excellent buy. I think they were a smart buy for somebody down the road, because some work will be done, because this kind of creative glazing, of course, was started heavily during the Chinlung period, and then continued on, obviously, into the 19th century when these were produced. But wonderful technique. And then on to this, the pair of tiles. Now, I had a couple of inquiries about these. With everybody, I just said, it depends on who, they could bring I was thinking, 5 to 10,000, but if anybody could attribute them to a particular artist, because they weren't signed by an artist. So somebody had to do a lot of in-person examining of these and really get into this decoration. But I said, when the people had asked, I said, but if they can think of somebody who did it, because they were so beautifully decorated, the price could take off. And one of the people that might have done it, I don't like to speculate without a signature, but because that's just a Chinlung mark. But this work here looked very similar to me. It was another piece that had sold at Freeman some time ago. This was several years ago. Was this? This is a porcelain plaque that was signed by Wang Bu. And he was, of course, one of the great Republic period porcelain decorators, and especially in blue and white. He was renowned for this kind of work, fantastic detail. He painted porcelain like you would paint silk. As far as and some of his work had almost a little bit of an impressionistic look to it. But this treatment here that you see on the plaque that sold a couple of years ago. And then when you blow this up and come into some of the close-up areas, the way the people are done, the way the trees are done, the technique, the feeling of it, very, very similar, I think. Now, I may be wrong, but if they were by the time they reached the sales floor, they were being attributed to Wang Bu, that would explain $320,000, even though they're unsigned. They have a rain mark on them, obviously, down here in the corner, right there, the Chinlung mark. But stylistically, it's done obviously, clearly in the 20th century manner. I don't think anybody thought these were Chinlung, because of the way the way the work is, the decoration is done, the size of the porcelain itself alone tells you it's Republic, but the way this mark is done also pretty much confirms it, in case anybody's wondering. So there it goes, 320,000 plus the premium, so you're upwards of $400,000 for the pair. That was pretty exciting stuff. Pretty exciting stuff. All right, and then lastly, I wanted to mention, check some of the past lots. This lot didn't sell. It had a $500 starting bid, a really nice piece of 17th century Japanese arita, probably made about 1680, 1690, covered piece. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I thought the estimate was unbelievably reasonable, and I guess there were no Japanese buyers in the room or something. But the decoration, how this is painted, this thing is superbly painted, very much, of course, in the Chinese style, like Canton wares, Canton decoration. But wonderful, wonderful work all the way around. And this particular form is published in many, many books, and there's one of them in the Ashmolean Museum collection. And it's good size, too. What was it, 12 inches tall or something? 12 inches tall overall, including the lid. So there it goes. It didn't sell, with a $1,000 to $1,500 estimate and a starting bid of $500. And if you're a Japanese arita buyer, opportunity here. Call up, talk to them, and see if there's a post-sale price for this. The seller may want it gone. It may be part of an estate they need to settle out, and there may be a little desire on their part to get it sold and finish up with this commission they're dealing with, because no auction house wants to keep stuff after the sale is over. They want to get it out of there. They don't want to be responsible for it, and they don't want to sell it again, because the second time through the cow often isn't much better than the first. It may be worse, but this time it was unsold. So let them know. Get a hold of them and let them know. All right. And for those of you who've been using we've been, as you know, a week ago we started making videos for the global member page users only. This is stuff more focused on the global pages, because it isn't always, if you're not a subscriber, it isn't all that interesting maybe what's on there. So we decided maybe we should do some extra videos each week for that, and we've done. There have been 4 of these since the last week of March. So we're going to continue to do these. We're going to do a global member page, sort of a video look on some of the Bonham stuff that's coming up. There's a couple of really good Bonham sales, and I want to go through them in detail for everybody that's on the page. All right. And this is some of the stuff that's coming up over there. Again, another pair of Shunzi or transitional period jars, estimated at 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. And we just saw what 2 of them are going to bring. And these are nice ones, by the way. These are at Bonham's with figures, crisply drawn, with lids, and nice colors, good strong colors. Like both of them. Alrighty, and then let's see what this one is. This is the May 10th sale, by the way, in London. Very nice Jesuit scene lacquer. Enameled bowl on copper with a lid. Good looking example. There it is. And it looks like I don't see any dents or damage to it, which is unusual for Beijing enamels, because they always seem to get cracks and dents in them. Modest estimate, 800 to 1,200 pounds. All right, so there's some things here to look at that you might be able to, if you're a dealer, that you could probably make money on. And the strategy here is just to go through and just leave opening bids, leave modest bids, leave a bid or 2. You're not going to get everything. I know people don't like to leave, 5 dozen bids, but the chances are you're not going to, you're very unlikely to get everything. You might get 1 or 2 things, but it's worth the time, because if you're a dealer, especially, you can build up some inventory without breaking your bank. This is in the sale coming up. This is a really nice Yixing carved incense burner, and they have the trigrams running around the outside like you see on the outside of relief work of Kongs, but beautiful famille rose enamels, beautiful enameling all the way around this thing. Absolutely great. Probably decorated in the first half of the Jiaqing or Daoguan period, but a beautiful decoration. Absolutely beautiful, and they look to be in good shape, and the feet don't look like they've been broken off, which is almost a miracle. I don't know if it ever had a lid. It probably did, probably a mesh lid of some type, and it no longer has it, but still very, very nice. And then on to this. This is coming up. If you like metals, if you're a metals buyer, this is on the May 10th sale. And how big is this? It's 5 inches tall, and it's a gilt and copper filigree lantern. It's a perfumer, but the quality of this just struck me as being wonderfully good, all the way down. Unusual too, rare form, rare type, and it may represent a really good buy to someone, especially if you're a collector of metalworks. Because if you go to look this up, you're going to dig around for about a week trying to find a comp for it, as to what it might be worth, what others have sold that are similar. There aren't many, and it's only estimated $800 to $1,200. So that represents, I think, an opportunity for people that are into early metalworks. It is an 18th century thing. That's how they've dated it. I think they're probably right. Could be a little older, conceivably, but probably 18th century. But it could possibly be mid to late 17th century, maybe Kengshi period. But either way, it's a great looking piece of metal. All right, so that sort of covers it. So I just wanted to go through the Freeman sale. They just did a great job. It was only a 200 lot sale. The only thing I could say about it was it seemed to go on for a long time. It started yesterday morning, I think 10 o'clock or something, and it was still going last night when I was thinking about having dinner. It's 5 or 6 o'clock. It was still going. So the lot rate per hour, because of internet bidding and so forth, is going to be a lot slower. I recognize that. So, but it was they were slugging it out. But I think they were also being extremely patient. There were a lot of overseas phone bidders, a lot of internet bidders, and each lot, because of all that, it bogs the process down a bit. So you have to be patient. That's all there is to it. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way the market is today. Gone are the days when you go to an auction and the auctioneer can move along at 100, 120 lots an hour, which in the old days, when we did an auction, a 200 lot auction, we'd started at, if it was a weekday sale, we'd start at 6 or 7 o'clock and we'd be wrapped up by 8 or 8:30 at the latest. And and that was, sometimes we did 400 lot sales in 3 hours. That wasn't 3 or 4 hours. That was not unusual. And today, I think you're down in the 30 to 40 lot per hour range when you're dealing with lots of international bidders, and so it goes. All right, so that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the regular weekly video, but swing over to Freeman's and go through their auction if you'd like. There's a lot to look at here. There's a lot to absorb. They had some very interesting items, and you'll see that the overall, though, the sell-through rate was very high, 95, 98%. Everything was reasonably estimated, and that's what you want in an auction. They're treating their consigners smartly. They're not giving them insane high hopes. They're giving them modest estimates and letting the market decide what something is worth, because it doesn't, in the end, it never matters what the seller thinks something is worth, nor what the auction house thinks it's worth. It matters what the buyers on any given day think it's worth. And if the sale is adequately promoted and advertised, the market will find the value for them. You don't need to do anything. All right, and that's what Freeman's, I think, did here very, very well, as did Doyle's recently, and the other auction houses, Christie's, Sotheby's, Bonhams, and so forth. All right, and keep your eyes out. To John's got a sale coming up in a few weeks, and there's some other stuff going on. So we'll be back tomorrow, and have a great day. Bye-bye.